Start this out. Good morning and welcome to free worship, everybody. Good news, bad news. Obvious bad news, just me again. Good news is, listen, you got to explain to some of you maybe visiting or don't know. I'm not the full-time pastor here. My name is Kip Gulledge. I'm the creative pastor. I do this maybe twice a year. And in the last several weeks, this is my second time in the last several weeks. So the good news is I've met my quota for probably the next year or two. You don't have to put up with me anymore for a long time to come if I have anything to do with it. I want to thank everybody that came out today to help with the little health fair out in the lobby. I hope. Thank you, First Help. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen that came and volunteered to help out and do that. They talked me into getting my blood pressure and pulse rate done earlier, and I was afraid they were going to have to run me down here to the old hospital but oddly enough, it wasn't that bad. So I don't, good sign, bad sign, I don't know. As you all may know, we've been working on a series for the last few weeks. The Doctor is in which we're taking medical terms, medical theologies, that's the right word, and combining it with our message. I told you a couple of weeks ago, it's a hard, this is not my full-time gig. So getting up here and trying to come up with a subject matter is hard enough getting a word from the Lord for me. I mean, like I say, this is not something I do all the time. Something to bring to you at least. So to try to have to fit it within a certain box is not an easy thing to do. And so sat down, started praying on the thing, where the Lord would have me to go, whatever. Here's the thing. Where he's decided that I needed to go today is a little bit, and see, Chad tells me, we do things out of the box. We do things different. We want to do something nobody expects, whatever. And I'm afraid this may be in that realm, if you will. All of the subject matter we've been dealing with up to this point has been problems, medical problems, physical, mental, whatever and it's been some type of this is what you do to help fix this and get better, whatever. Well, there's another side to what a doctor does, to a doctor's job, and that job involves death. Death is not a subject that we like to talk about. It's not a subject we like to deal with. If you get in a crowd of people, you start bringing up death, talking about it, odds are you're going to see people start moving away from it. It's not something we're comfortable with. It's not something that we enjoy talking about. We shy away from it. As a society, I believe we do as much as we possibly can. I'm going to say something right now that may be some people may have a problem with. I don't know. At least having a problem with it coming from the pulpit. I have a problem with death. I'm uncomfortable talking and dealing with death. Now, why would that be a problem? Well, from the pulpit, people want to hear the preacher get up here and say, we don't belong in this world, and we don't. We're passing through this world. If you're a child of God, you don't belong here. You got another home, and we're working towards that home. So to hear a preacher get up here and say, because you're supposed to be ready to get it right now. But if I'm looking here and I'm being absolutely honest with you, if you know me, I tend to be a little honest. I'm not comfortable dealing with death. I'm not comfortable thinking about leaving the people that I love, the things that I love, the places that I love. It's just hard to think about that if we'll be honest with ourselves. Job referred to death as the king of terrors in the Bible. And it reminds me of a story. There was this preacher. He went in one day and he was just laying it to them one Sunday morning. And he asked the congregation, he said, who wants to go to heaven? And of course everybody raised their hand, except for one guy on the front. And he stopped and he said, wait a minute, you don't want to go to heaven? And he says, well, I really do, preacher, but it sounds like you're trying to get a bus load to go right now. That's kind of how I feel about it. I want to be there. I'm ready to go. But if the bus pulls up right now, can I say that I'm just ripping and ready to go? So it's an uncomfortable thing for us. I don't think Jesus holds, if we feel that way, I don't think Jesus holds that against us. I think he understands. It's a human characteristic of us to be scared of things we don't understand. One of the things, I'll tell you this, one of the things that I pray for all the time, right consistently, is that the Lord allows me to walk on this earth and be here till I can at least see my children able to take care of themselves. Sometimes at the rate we're going right now, I don't think I'll ever die by asking that. But, they get me for that later. Here's the thing, though. No matter how uncomfortable we are talking about death or whatever, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Unless Jesus comes while we're alive, everybody in this room will have to die. You will have to give up the ghost. Now, if you get in a crowd of people and you say that, we're talking about it this morning in church as Christians, but you can ask an atheist, you can ask a Muslim, you can ask a Buddhist, you can ask anybody, and one thing they will all agree on is we have to die. Some see it as an ending. Some see it as a hole in the ground when they cover you up with dirt, blackness, and nothing ever again. Some people see it as a beginning as a new life in a better place. But I can tell you this, what you believe, what you think and what you believe about death will determine how you live. You can speak that you believe there's a God and there's another world beyond this. But if you don't believe it, you're not going to live it. So your actions will speak louder than your words. 1 Corinthians 4:10 says, we always carry the death of Jesus in our bodies so that the life of Jesus may be clearly shown in our bodies. Now you may say the whole process of death and whatever, well, that's just not fair. Why couldn't there have been an easier way to get to heaven? Well, think of it this way. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came to earth. He put himself to a human body. He put himself to the pain and suffering of death on the cross. Because he put himself through the process that we would have to go through in order to get to heaven. He didn't ask us to do anything that he didn't do himself. And if it's good enough for him, then it's good enough for us. Ecclesiastes 3:2 says, there is a time to be born and there is a time to die. Psalms 116 verse 15 says, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his faithful servants. So, whether we like it or not, it's something, barring Jesus coming, death is something we will have to deal with eventually. But we're talking about a physical death right now. There's other types of death. There's also a death that you should, or may, but should deal with while you're on this earth. That's a death to self. Now, I say it should occur because sometimes it doesn't. Even in people who accept Christ, sometimes it doesn't. Matthew 16:24-25 says, then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Deny himself. You die to self. What does that mean? That means when you become a part of God's family, you give up the things that you want for yourself and you start seeking the things that God wants for you and God wants for everybody around you. Right now, the pastor would tell you to high-five your neighbor and say, it's not about you. Well, that's all well and good and sounds good and all that, but here's the process. When you ask Christ to come into your life, the Holy Spirit comes down and dwells. He makes a place in your heart, and he dwells in your body from there on out. Okay? And what happens is, The old person, the old flesh, the old body is still there and still wanting self, self, self. Look out for self. But at the same time, you've got that spirit in you. And the whole time that spirit's wanting you to seek God's will and seek for others around you, to take care of others around you. And so a war starts. There's a fight in you. And just a tug of war back and forth and back and forth. And unfortunately, sometimes when the flesh starts winning, we become self-centered. Now, what is self-centered? When I was doing my research and studying this week, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I came across an illustration, actually Joyce Meyer's, that I thought was incredible and really kind of explains self-centeredness. Self-centeredness is when, okay, think of yourself as a toy. And the devil's got this toy in his hand. And in the other hand, he's got one of these right here. Now, do you guys know what this is? Anybody got a guess? Wind-up key. That's right. Now, for the younger ones in here, a long time ago, toys didn't run off batteries. They had a spring in them, and you put that thing in there, and you crank that spring down until it got tight enough to make the toy move. You know. So anyway, I want you to imagine yourself on a bad day. The devil's got you like a little toy in his hand, and he takes this thing, and he finds a sore spot. He finds a spot that's real tender, and something that's sensitive on your body, and he finds that spot, and he sticks that key in that spot. And then what he does is he cranks it one good time, and when he cranks it, he leans over, and he whispers in your ear, and he says, "Did you see that? The preacher just liked their Facebook page, and he never likes your Facebook page." And then he reaches over and he grabs it again, he cranks it another time, and he said, "Did you hear that? They cut her microphone up when they cut your microphone up. And she got a solo, and you didn't get a solo." And he sits there and he cranks it again, and he says, "That promotion you've been wanting, you should have got that promotion. That other dude should have got, he should have got that job. You should have got it." And he'll crank it, and he'll crank it, and he'll crank it. And he finds those sore spots, and he turns it, and he turns it. What happens, the spring gets tighter and tighter, and you get wound up tighter and tighter. And when he lets go of that thing, he pulls it out. The toy does this. "What about me? What about me? What about me?" So that's self-centeredness. Self-centered is when we focus on our desires more than his, and we become more interested in me than we. Now, the sore spots that we just got to talking about. In order for there to be death, there has to be pain. If you look in the Bible, it's almost like a formula, if you will. There has to be sowing before there's reaping. There has to be pain in the night before there's joy in the morning. There had to be crucifixion before there could be resurrection. So in order to die to something, there has to be pain. The pain that we have in our bodies, that the devil takes his key and he sticks it in and winds it up, those are the things that drive us crazy. Here's the thing. If a spot's dead to you, he can stick that key in it, because dead feels nothing. Dead is gone. If he sticks that key in something that's dead and twists it, you get no reaction. It means nothing. If I pull out of here on Monday morning and on the way home, I pass by a local liquor store, I don't all of a sudden have to deal with whether I'm going to run in there and rob that liquor store, because it's something that's dead in me. It's something that's never been alive, quite frankly. And so the devil can't take that key and jab it in there and start cranking that on me. Now, if I leave here on Monday and I start headed for home, and I get down to Walmart down here where the driveway is, and I'm going 5 miles over speed limit, whatever, but I'm on my way home, and right when I get to the driveway, somebody whips out right in front of me, and I have to slam on brakes. And then by the time I slam on brakes and get proper distance, they turn and get out of my way again. They couldn't have waited 5 extra seconds. Right then, he grabbed that key, and he found that spot in me, and he said, "Rrr," just like that right there. And the things that went through my head and the things that I wanted to do were not of God. Okay? So do you understand the concept? Do you have spots that hurt? We have things that hurt. We have things that are dead to us, the things that he can't get to and mess with. But we have things that bother us, and he knows what they are. And he will go after them with a vengeance. So the process of dying to self, what I mean by that is you find those things. You know, when I get behind this person that makes me slam on brakes and whatever, do I do what I wanted to do? Do I say what I wanted to say? I don't. I take a breath. I think about it for a minute. I give it to him. And I take the pain. Here's the thing. Whatever it is your pain is, if you do it repeatedly with the process every day, it becomes a little less painful each time. Until eventually what you're going to find is that sore spot, that painful spot, has become dead. And the devil can't get you through it anymore. That doesn't mean he's not going to find another one, because it's a process. This is something that we're going to have to go through for the rest of our lives. But that's what it means to die in self. Now, I'm going to throw this in for a little good measure, if you will. If you're at a church and you're not being fed, I have heard Chad Vick many times say, if you're not being fed here, let us know. We will help you find another church, because you should be fed where you go. You shouldn't be going to church because grandma went there, because your friends go there. I mean, that's all well and good, but if you're not being fed, you don't need to be going to that church. But the flip side of that is, if you can look in your past, if you can pull out a calendar and you can mark all the churches that you've been to and you've bounced to, and you've bounced all this time because they didn't appreciate me. They didn't do what I asked them to do. I didn't get my way. You might want to get in the mirror and look over your shoulder, because one of these might be stuck in your back. He might be sitting there just grinding it down on you. So, how do I die to self? Well, again, it's a painful process. It's something you go through daily. It's like an exercise. The more you do it, the easier and less painful it becomes, until it's dead and the devil can't use it anymore. Now, don't confuse dying to self with killing yourself. Two different things. I'm glad you asked why. Dying to self means you're taking something that no longer belongs in your life, and you're working on it to get it out of your life so that you never have to deal with it again. Killing yourself, on the other hand, is when something that causes death, you welcome it into your life. As a matter of fact, if it starts slipping away from you a little bit, you're going to do everything you can to grab a hold of it and hang on to it. I'll give you a little illustration. If I asked, do you know who Jack Kevorkian is? How many of you could say yeah? Yeah. Years ago, as a doctor, they called him Dr. Death. Jack Kevorkian, he helped people. He assisted them in suicide, if they were chronically ill, if they were in pain, whatever. He assisted them in suicides. He was known as Dr. Death. Wherever you saw Jack Kevorkian, you knew death was following. Now, with that in mind, let's say you pull out here after church. You get into a wreck out here on number 9 highway. They have to load you up, run you down here to the hospital, and you regain conscious sometime or another. You're laid in the emergency room, and you look up, and Jack Kevorkian is standing over you with a syringe or something like that, saying, "We're going to take care of you, don't worry." What you going to do? If you can, let me tell you what I'm going to do. If I can, I'm going to jump up off that table, and I'm going to get out of there as quick as I can. I'm going to run and get away from it. If I can't run, I'm at least going to holler for somebody to come help me. Help me, help me, help me. Get this fool away from me. Because where Jack Kevorkian goes, death is following. Believe it. Well, some of us wake up in the mornings, just like gaining our consciousness, wipe our eyes out, and our Jack Kevorkian, if you will, is standing there waiting on us. It might be anger. It might be bitterness. It might be something you can't shake. It might be running with the crowd you don't need to be running with. But that's your Jack Kevorkian. That's your death that's going to kill you if you keep clinging onto it, hanging onto it. And instead of hollering for somebody to come help me, or jumping up and taking off and running from it as hard as we can, we run up to it every morning and we put our arms around it and say, I missed you. Glad you're back. That's the difference between killing yourself and finding something that is separating you from God and putting death to that. Now, I'm going to say one more thing about death itself, and then we'll move on from there. I'd be willing to bet, I ain't calling their names, I really don't have anybody's name to call it. I'd be willing to bet there's one person, at least one person in this room, is probably sitting there right now saying, I hope she's listening to this. I hope someone's heard this. Or, I wish so-and-so would have showed up today and heard this. I mean, the reason I say that is because when I was writing this, I could name you some names that was coming to my mind for real. Oh, they gonna need to hear this. Probably some of you sitting there thinking it right now. If we're being honest about it. And the funny thing is, the people who are thinking that and saying that probably right now will be the very ones that'll get in the car and pull out the parking lot to go eat lunch. And the family will decide they want to go eat lunch at one place and they want to go somewhere else, and they're going to run their lips out and pout about it because they didn't get where they wanted to go. But yet, they wanted somebody else to say, oh, they need to hear this. Now, how do I know that? Because if you'll take a microphone back there and put it in my wife right now, she's smiling because she knows what I'm going to say. If you give her a microphone, she'll tell you part of the time I'm the one sitting up in the car pouting when I don't get to eat where I want to eat. So let's just be for real. It happens. We do it. I mean, if that person comes to mind, first of all, we need to just reflect on self before we worry about anybody else. But even if you're right, even if there is someone you can think about, instead of using that for a tool for beating them down or putting them down or running them down, we need to lift them up. We need to pray for them. We need to, just try to help them the best way we can in a positive way. Next type of death, and this is the worst, probably the worst type of death. This death actually comes, we talked about physical death. We talked about death to self. Now we'll talk about spiritual death. Hebrews 9:27 says, it is appointed unto man to die once, and then comes the judgment. Well, here's what's going to happen. Just to lay it out there. One day, unless Jesus comes back while we're alive, this shell that we're living in is going to quit working. It's going to run down, it's going to deteriorate, it's going to break down, and one day it's just going to stop working. And we're going to leave this world. And when we leave this world, we're going to find ourselves standing at the throne of God. And there will be a judgment. Now, I know everybody's got their own idea of judgment and whatnot, but in my mind, I see a big movie screen. And what's going to happen is every minute of every second of my life is going to play on that movie screen. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be ashamed of myself. I'm going to cry and be hurt. Because it's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what's important to know is when the end, or however it ends, the tape rolls or whatever, when it ends, the important thing is two things are going to happen. Jesus Christ is going to be sitting on the right hand of the Father. He's going to look at God, and he's going to look at me, and he's going to say, I know it wasn't pretty. We watched it. But he's one of mine. I died for him. Either that's going to happen, or he's going to look at you and look at God, and he's going to say, I don't know him. I didn't know him when he didn't know me when he was on the earth. I don't know him now. And what's going to happen is we're going to end up, that person will end up in a hell for eternity. Now, I have been asked many a time, why don't you preach a good hell, fire, and brimstone message and come up here? Tell everybody how hot hell is and how it stinks and smokes and the torment. The Bible's very clear. Honestly, we don't make a conscious decision to preach hell or not preach hell. I'll be honest with you, sometimes the world beats us up so bad that it's nice to get a positive message. But the Bible is very clear on hell and how the flame, how hot it is. It stinks of sulfur and smoke. It's torment, it's pain, it's misery. It's all in the Bible. We'll be glad to show you what's happening. I'm going to tell you something that scares me a lot worse than that, if that makes sense at all. When we started out talking about this, one of the things that I told you was, I'm just not comfortable with death. I'm not comfortable talking about death or dealing with it, because I struggle with having to leave the people that I love, the things and the places, whatever. One thing about hell is there's going to be a loneliness there. You know, Hollywood likes to portray death as a big party where people get down there and at best they're having a good time and playing, and it's, you know, flames shooting here and there and yonder, and it's a big party. And at worst, you know, at least you're down there with a bunch of people, and when the devil hits you with a pitchfork, you know, maybe your buddy might be able to say, "Shake it off, dude." You know, it's not like that. It's dark, it's lonely. And the thing that scares me about death, the thing that bothers me, if you will, about leaving people that I love, that's at least temporary. Because even if I died right now, I'm still going to see these people again. I'm going to see the people I love again. But if you're in hell, you're not going to have buddies. You're not going to see people you love. That's how long it is, and that's for eternity. I mean, that's something you're going to deal with forever and ever and ever. Brandon? I always like to close it out with a little story. And I found this one in my studies. In 1888, a man by the name of Alfred Nobel picked up the newspaper one morning while he's eating breakfast, and he started reading, and he came across the obituaries. And lo and behold, there's his name in the obituary. And he starts reading the obituary, and it's all about him, all about his life and his family and everything. And he was like, what is going on? Well, what had happened was his brother had passed away. And the person who wrote the obituary in that time got them confused. And so his obituary's in there now. Albert was the inventor of dynamite, and he was known as the Dynamite King. And the article that they wrote about him told about all the destruction and all this destruction and everything that had come from his invention. And he had made a bunch of money off of it, all this stuff. He might have found that funny. Well, this is irony. Let me call him and tell him that. But it bothered him. It bothered him really, really bad, because he got to see how the world saw him and how his legacy would be left when he left. And he didn't like what he saw. And so he spent the rest of his life and his money working on bettering society, on advocating for peace. And so when he died, he left his fortune to a foundation, and they ended up calling it the Nobel Prize. We talk about every year we hear the Nobel Prize. He changed his legacy. He went from being known for one thing to being known to a better thing. The reason that story struck me is there was a lady. I've never met her before, but she was a friend of mine on Facebook. And this past week, She lost her battle to cancer. I don't know her, never met her. But her Facebook wall, it was incredible, the number of people that came out and wrote on her wall. What a blessing she had been, what a joy she had been. She had done mission trips in Nicaragua and all over. I hope, I pray that when I leave this earth, that I could be half as thought of as this woman. You know? I mean, that's all you can hope for, because one day you're going to leave this place and you're going to leave everything behind. The only thing's going to be left behind is what you've left for people to think and to know about you. Now, we're going to open up the altar here.